All right, hello and welcome to another episode of I Guess I'll Do It with Pat House. Today I am going off the map a little bit, and my guest is not a comic, but we talk a lot of comedy, and he is a very good buddy of mine. He is a pilot, and I cannot wait to find out about aviation because I fly all the time, and it still blows my mind. I have so many questions, probably the same questions a second grader would ask, but here we go. Today, I have my good friend Jackson. What's up, buddy?
Hey, buddy. Thanks for having me, man. It's good to see you again.
Dude,
how you been?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for hopping on, man. I'm super excited to have you. I fly all the time. We'll get into that later. But every episode, I start off by talking about how and where I met my guest. And then you and I met at the Jacksonville Comedy Zone the weekend I opened for Tom Segura.
Yeah, that was way back. I mean, that was kind of
17 or 18, maybe?
Oh, God. I want to say it might have been before that. And that was before everything just kind of,
You're probably right about that. That may have been like 15 or 16, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it was way back. This was even before I think Tom was even doing his, Netflix stuff. But I was like, dude,
he had his first one out at that point, I think.
Okay.
But he was nowhere near where he is now.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had just a love for comedy. And so when my wife was like, hey, there's this thing up in Jacksonville, and I was like already in the car, ready to go. And she had asked me, and even if it's like, the biggest thing in the world or nobody I know, I'm like, I love going just to see, new material. And even if for like the underdogs, just to give guys a chance. And I mean, I love laughing my ass off. So like the whole laughing and drinking combination, man, going together at like those nice little like clubs with like the round table, with like the Goodfellas candles on top, like the Italian mob styles, and just listen to comedy, man. That's my jam.
That's awesome. I love hearing that kind of stuff. I don't know if you remember or if you even knew this, but I was so sick that weekend. I don't know if it was allergies or the flu or what, but that weekend, it was a Thursday to Saturday. It was nothing but Gatorade, Tylenol Sinus, and Mucinex all
That
weekend.
Sounds like that might be the hangover from us hanging out.
And my hotel room had bugs. I never even thought of this in the past 7 years. My hotel room that weekend had bugs, and I tweeted and put on Facebook, indoor camping is when your hotel has bugs. I put that on social media, and within an hour, the comedy club manager called me and was like, is everything okay?
No, everything's just fine. I just love to randomly tweet stuff like that.
I'm like, it's fine. I just saw like a couple ants in my hotel room. I don't give a fuck. I just squashed them.
Was this before like the bed bug phase kind of blew up, or was it just like, because in Florida, I mean, like everything wants to eat and bite you and stab you. I was
expecting that. Also, man, I swear to God, I am reliving all of this in the moment, real time. I went to Publix across from my hotel on Friday or Saturday morning, and I bought like a 6-pack and a small bottle of something, and the cashier was like, hey man, great set last night. And I'm like, what? Not only did this guy see me, he's seen me buying booze at 10 a.m. the next morning.
That's awesome, dude. I love that.
But that was such a fun weekend, though. That was a lot of fun weekend. The Jacksonville Comedy Zone is a killer club, and that was a lot of fun.
I've got a picture somewhere, and honestly, like it was like looking back. I mean, we were so young back then, but we were like on a table, and there was like a bunch of like comedy swag that like you had and Tom had, and like there was probably like 10 of us, and we're all like
the big group photo.
Out. And that was like, I look back and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this was like iconic, man. This was like kind of the beginning of, obviously you and I meeting each other. But yeah, that was me kind of getting back into comedy after, studying my butt off for so many years. I kind of let it go for a while. So yeah, that was a good memory.
Dude, it was such a fun weekend. And also, we had a pretty memorable night in Tampa, actually, also with Tom Segura a few years later. And I'll be honest, that weekend was fun. But yeah,
I've never out of all of my years, and I think that the other individuals that were with me, I don't think I've ever time traveled so aggressively in my entire life from the moment that we were at that
as a pilot.
As a pilot, that I've time traveled, and it went from like us sitting at the table and people are just like power smoking cigarettes and we're drinking like Rolling Rock, and all of a sudden I wake up and I'm
shots
like
of Jaeger.
hotel room. Oh man, it was
Not
like
just that.
the
Can I tell you
best
the last
worst
thing
night.
I remember for me? Just my personal last memory of that night was just eating a fistful of edibles at a food cart.
Yes, I won't name names, but a bag was going around the table and it presented in front of me, and I looked and I was like, that guy. Everybody else was having a really good time, and I had to be the guy that was like, oh, dude, I was like, this is like a lifetime opportunity. I was like, I can't do it, and I had to do like the I'm sorry, I pass, and everyone just kind of looked at me, and I remember Tom looked at me like, are you kidding me? And I was like, I can't. I
Dude,
really
I know.
want it,
I
but I can't.
totally get
Oh,
it. Also, I woke up covered in Sharpie. I
yep,
was
yep.
drawn all over, and that was on my
You let the
hotel
women
sheets the
get
next
to you like
morning.
you let the women get to you like a whiteboard, dude. That was absolutely hilarious.
Dude,
I
that
woke up to
lasted for
some.
almost a week. Like that wasn't Sharpie. That was like construction worker, industrial. We're building a house type Sharpie.
You cannot, yeah, you cannot get it off, man. I think there's probably some pictures. We should probably delete those if you ever run for like politician or something, because there's some pictures still floating around on some cloud device right now.
Probably, and it's between me, you, and two other people.
No, dude, that was a great night. The drive home was absolutely horrendous. My wife was like puking in the backseat the entire time, and I was like, man, that was a really good night. She's like, are you out of your mind? She's like, that was horrible. I was like, oh,
Well, it was fun until a certain point.
but you couldn't turn it off. That was the thing. You wanted to just keep going, just a little bit more and a little bit
Who
more.
drew
So yeah,
on me? Who drew on me? Your wife or Hillary? I have no idea. Or
both,
both.
both. Yeah, there was two, and
I
it was
woke
like
up.
the shirt was up. You gave like zero fucks, and you're like, just do it. And it wasn't like you were getting like Cher was there, and you're like, Cher, sign my body. It was like just two random girls.
I woke up and I looked like Anthony Kiedis. I was I was covered. I had
I wonder if
the S on my side, like the same capital letter S that like chicks draw on their high school textbooks. You know what?
like the Stussy,
Yes.
thing.
No,
Oh
not the
man,
Stussy thing. Like, I'll have to post it when I post the podcast. Anyway, it was, and I don't know. Nobody has the initial S in that group.
no,
None of us.
none whatsoever. And there was I woke up and there was actually puke on the floor. And usually I'm like, oh man, like who was it? It was like this total clue game investigation. And I remember my wife took a small towel and she put it up in the air and just put it over the puke. And we left the hotel room. I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna charge us like a $300 cleaning fee. We never heard anything of it. I couldn't believe my wife left the hotel room in that condition, as much of a clean freak as she is. And we just left, and that was the end of Tampa.
Dude, that was the end of Tampa because the next day, Tom Segura and I had a 4-hour car ride to Fort Lauderdale, and I was hurting. And
Dude.
actually, I was a little bit younger then. Like, hangovers are worse now. I was like,
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't hurting. It just sucked. And
To be in a car.
yeah, for 4 hours because we had to go south and then across Florida. And then yeah, then we got to Fort Lauderdale, and then we did the show, and then I remember just red wine afterwards, and like I was coming from a shot and beer night the night before, and then I was taking in red wine, and I was like, oh fucking Florida, dude. Florida.
Dude, no good. And then like in those car rides, you start contemplating how much money you would give for like a bed, a fan, and like a Big Mac just to be able like to lay down and sleep and start over like the next day.
What we got to the Hard Rock Hotel in Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, and that was the biggest show I've ever done that night. That was 7,000 people, I think.
Yeah,
so this was the biggest show of my life. And I got to the hotel, and it was beautiful out. So I'm like, oh my God, do I take a nap or do I go to the hotel pool and water slide and have a drink? And that's what I did. I was like, I'm balancing myself back out. I'm going to get some hydration by going in the water, and then
that's a tough pill. That's like a devil and angel kind of shoulder thing. You're like, do I sleep and hydrate, or do I get after it and I just get the drink?
No, I couldn't get after it because that was literally the biggest show of my entire life, and I knew that going. We were in an arena almost. Like Aerosmith was there the night after us, and I was like, and I'm somewhat of a professional. I was like, I'm not fucking around.
No, it's a really big venue. I mean, just being there, it's kind of like a mini Vegas. So I'm glad you went the water slide and cocktails, right?
I did, and just one or two, and then I took a shower, I took a quick 1 hour nap, and I was like, okay, I'm good, but I'm probably not, but I'm good for what I need to do for the next 2 to 3 hours.
Exactly. And then I'm going to dive into some red wine. Absolutely.
So, all right, let me ask you this before we get into the aviation stuff. So, you and I met through our friend Hillary through stand up
Yep.
and yada yada yada. Were you a comedy fan your whole life of stand up, or
I didn't know, like, honestly, the first thing I can think of is I remember my mom letting me stay up late on Saturday nights. And unbeknownst to me, not really knowing what it was at first, but it was Saturday Night Live. And it was like the OG 1980s Saturday Night Live. And so to stay up past,
the good
11
'80s, like
o'clock.
the early '80s, or the weird bad to mid '80s? Because
So
SNL
it
took a
was,
dump
no,
mid
totally.
to late '80s.
So yeah, it was Billy Crystal and the Hartman and obviously the
Hartman, the
Mike
best.
Myers era, yeah. And so that was a real big thing for me to watch it, and it was Hans and Franz, we're gonna pump you up, and I didn't know, like, I just thought that these guys were
Oh,
like on
Hans and
this
Franz, Dana Carvey and Kevin Nealon.
totally, and I didn't understand what these guys, like, who they were, but I remember they made me laugh. It was funny, and then I started realizing that these people were so funny that they were going on to bigger, better things. And so, like, the correlation between, like, Dan Aykroyd, and then I would see Ghostbusters, and I'm like, that's that guy from that funny show. And then I'm like, oh my God, this is comedy. And so there were no platforms back in the day to, no YouTubes, no nothing else to watch these guys. So it was just whatever was on TV. And we were poor. We didn't have cable or Comedy Central. So when I would get bits and pieces of these people and movies, I was like, this is the best. And then fast forward to, like, high school, that's when, like, burnt CDs were coming out. And I realized that you
Uh-huh.
could take music and other, whatever data and put them on these CDs. And I remember it was such a big thing for me because you could take comedy and you could take it with you. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, this is absolutely crazy. So I remember, like, one of Chris Rock's big specials, my buddy burnt me a Chris Rock special. And I can remember everyone's listening to music and I'm like laughing
Way
my
back
ass
then,
off
it was
listening.
either bigger and blacker, or Bring the Pain.
Bigger, blacker. Yep. I remember.
Yeah.
At the end, he's talking about his fried chicken and he's like,
Dude.
feed me, fuck me, leave me the fuck alone. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this is hilarious. I'm
Monumental.
like a token white guy from Minnesota. So then fast forward into college and now, like, Napster's getting introduced and people are able to share this stuff. And that's when I started getting into, bigger people that I didn't know were going to be, like, influential. Like, I remember Brian Regan was probably one of the first people that I listened to on Napster.
Oh,
And some of his
100%.
hits, and I'm like, who are these people? And then it was just a horrible rabbit hole. And I'm downloading, like, waiting for the FBI to, like, break into my dorm room. Like, you're downloading all this stuff. So it was, like, super scary to do. But I went from there, and then it just spiraled out of control from there.
See, that's so awesome that you were listening to it back then too, because I was from that same era, and I remember in my college dorm in Temple Towers, we could share music within our building. Like, I don't know how Wi-Fi or internet works, but you could see everybody's music in your building, and I listened to so much comedy. And also, side note, because you just said Brian Regan, one time I was on a plane very early into my career, 10, 12 years ago. I was listening to Brian Regan's first album called Brian Regan Live, and I had to stop because I was laughing so hard on the plane. I probably looked like a crazy person, but I was legitimately just fucking laughing.
That's the best, when you can't control it and, like, the tears start coming down and you're like, I don't even care what I look like. This shit's hilarious.
It's also the best when it's audio and not video, because you are painting your own. The comic is painting such an image that you are picturing what they're saying. But I was a couple tracks in and I actually had to take my headphones off, and I was like, I can't listen to this on the plane because I was like convulsing in my seat.
That's and you take such a negative experience that a lot of people have with flying, and then you tie it in with, like, comedy or something that makes people feel good, or driving down the highway in traffic. I mean, I listen to, like, Netflix is a Joke Radio and a lot of other platforms, and that probably makes my drive to work 10 times better because I'm not sitting there, like, white knuckling it. I'm listening to people, like, making me laugh, and then when I get to work, I'm actually in a good mood.
That's, you know what? I think we just unraveled something here. I think people on planes should listen to comedy, specifically me.
we'll get you tied up with some other airlines here. We'll see if we can't get you on some
How
special.
do I
I think
get
some
myself an American Southwest or Delta sponsorship?
some of them have like preloaded like movies and music, and they
Oh, I know
actually
they
have
do.
comedy things. And I'm like, this is really cool that they're even allowing this, even if it's a bunch of like nobodies, or even if it's the most popular guys in the world. But I like to listen through it and like go see who they have. And I'm like, how did this person get on like this flight with like their comedy special? That's awesome.
That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's
All
really
right.
nice. So,
So let's go back to the beginning here. You are from Minnesota.
yep, born and raised.
Where from?
So it's a little small town west of the city. It's called Mound, Minnesota, and nobody's going to be like, "What is that?" We actually had one of the few Tonka truck factories. So if anybody listening to this ever played with a yellow Tonka truck and or thing that said Tonka on it,
I mean,
I was from that.
absolutely.
Everybody. So I lived
Still
off of
do.
Lake Minnetonka. So that's how they got the name Tonka, and so that was one of the factories in my town. I think it closed down, some year, but I grew up there and grew up, in the Four Seasons and playing pond hockey and just ice fishing, and went from there and kind of moved around and tried to establish myself, and now somehow I'm living in Florida, and it's like the total polar opposite of sweating
Definitely.
every day, and there's nothing to do but like sit in your pool and drink. So
How similar?
vastly different.
How similar was your childhood to like grumpy old men? Because that's what I picture when I think of like Minnesota.
It's really funny because looking back at those movies now, when they came out, I was a lot younger, so I didn't understand a lot of like the
Also, two of my
mannerisms.
favorite movies of all time, one and two, phenomenal.
Yeah, they were great, and it's that was hard to piggyback off that because usually when you make a good
Dude,
movie, you don't dare touch it again.
dude, they got Sophia Loren
Yep,
and Anne Margaret.
dude, it was good, and it's totally a spitting image to be like, God, I hope I can get that old and have a best friend where I can like piss on his radiator and put smelly fish in his
In
back
the
seat,
car.
but like still have a drink with him later that night and be like, what a great day, we're still
Dude,
alive.
I love those movies so much. And like I mean, I'm a stand-up, obviously, but like when it comes to movies, I don't think anybody was funnier than the Walter Matthau Jack Lemmon combo. They were best friends in real life and were enemies in every movie, and you cannot
Totally.
ask for anything more perfect.
There's a very few couple of combinations of guys that follow each other around with movies that like when you see one, you're waiting for the other, and that's definitely like those guys were the pinnacle of that, I think.
Oh my god. Yup. Um
Absolutely.
so all right, where'd you move around to after Minnesota?
Oh man, well I don't want to brag, but I went to the University of North Dakota, which like there's literally nothing to do up there but like drink and fucking fly sort of thing. So it's literally one of the coldest places I've
Drink
ever.
and fly in that order?
Well, the funny thing was, is I was just thinking about this. So I went up there for aviation. I have a pretty big degree up there, and like it gets really, really cold up there. So you're inside all the time, and usually the people that you're drinking with are like your flight instructors who are buying you the beer, and then taking you flying the next day. And you're like, I thought you're like my teacher, and they're like, yeah, whatever. So you go fly, and then you just hang out with,
Oh,
you
this
know,
is so comforting.
yeah, I know but it builds camaraderie and it builds trust. If I can't drink with you, I probably don't want to go fly with you, right? So, yeah, man, I went to college there and then moved out to Seattle. I worked for
Oh,
Microsoft for
Seattle.
a few years, and you know our love for Seattle, Mount Rainier. So
I
it was a beautiful place.
I was there 3 weeks
Um,
ago.
I couldn't afford to live there back then, and I probably still can't afford to live there now. But
Were you in
it's a great.
Seattle or in the suburbs?
I was in Bellevue, and then
Okay.
basically kind of stayed out of the city. And I worked up in Redmond for Microsoft, so I was there for the better part of like a year and a half. So, and
I
then
am
it,
I'm,
it was it was nuts. I didn't know I was kind of like living like a king, but it was great.
I'm familiar with both Redmond and Bellevue. My
Yep,
first CD, my first album that came out 10 years ago, that cover was taken at Parlor Live in Bellevue, Washington.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's changed quite a bit going back. I was just there the other month, and I was like, oh my
Very
god. But
corporate. It's like
it,
super corporate.
I think like Amazon, like one of their headquarters is there, and I'm like,
Amazon, Expedia.
yeah, yeah, it's cool. I liked Seattle because it had a little bit of everything. It had the big city, had the mountains, the seasons were great, the diversity was awesome, and there was like a brewery like every like 40 feet, so it was my jam.
There are breweries absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, no, it was great. So, ironically, somehow I moved from there, and I moved from like Fort Lauderdale all the way down to like, or from Seattle all the way down to Fort Lauderdale, and I got my first flying job down there. And that kind of was, it was tough, man. Like you got to think, I graduated college in 2005. And that was not too long after 9/11. So nobody hired for the better part of like a decade. So to get a job, like your first job where somebody was physically giving you money to do like what you wanted to do to like, and you went to college for, it was mind blowing. And I was like, oh yes, like I finally made it.
What did you go to
which I
college
was,
for?
So it was Bachelor Aeronautical Science. So it was half
Okay,
class,
okay.
half aviation. So it was kind of like you're going to two colleges at once, and I definitely paid for two colleges at once. But it was the in class, and then it was the flight lessons. So you kept yourself really busy. And then if you had to have a job or go out and you had a girlfriend or drink, whatever like that, it kept you very, very busy. So I did that, but it was impossible to get a job. Nobody was hiring after 9/11. Guys were losing their jobs. It was absolutely
How
madness.
come?
So
No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, I know, right? My mom called me. She's like, "Are you still going to do this?" She's like, "You might want to change your profession." And literally, like, all my eggs were in one basket. I was like, "What the hell am I going to do? There's no plan B. I've never thought about on the back end." So I just was like, "I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket, move forward," and somehow it paid off. So yeah, it was crazy.
How many colleges have? Hold on, I'm going to even butcher the wording here. Aeronautical science. What did you just say?
It was the Bachelor Aeronautical Science. But
Okay, so I said it correctly.
School. Yeah, aviation schools. There's quite a few of them. You can go to a university. There's one down here in Florida, Embry-Riddle. They're really big. Purdue's got one. University of North Dakota. You've got some pretty big name universities, but then they also just have flight schools. So whatever.
I went to Temple University in North Philadelphia. I don't think that was on the list.
Yeah, there's probably not a flight school down there at Temple, but there's a lot of brother sister companies and even local airports. They have operations where they offer, if you don't want to go to university, you just want to get your POTS license, say, hey man, come fly with us, let's hang out, and we can get you your private POTS license or your commercial, whatever it is. So there's a lot of options out there.
Wow. Okay, So let's go back to the very, very beginning. What was your interest in aviation or flying?
I didn't really I didn't understand it. I think I was just my mom kept telling me I was going to get hit by a car if I didn't like look forward, because I kept looking up, and I was like, I got the bug at such a young age. My grandfather, he was actually a fighter pilot in World War II. And if you've ever had somebody,
did you know him?
Oh yeah. We hung out a lot. He didn't pass away until I think 2003 or 2004. So I grew up with him a lot, but if you've ever known anybody that's been through a war, they don't talk about it a lot. It's not something like, hey, let's remember back. So it was tough for me to get stories, but I knew that he had the aviation experience, and I had caught the bug at such a young age. And I was just like, I had blinders on, and it was like, I have to do this. And I can literally remember my barber. I told my barber when I was like 8 years old, I was like, I'm going to be an airline pilot. And he goes, don't airline pilots have to be smart? And everybody was like, it was an impossible
He called
job.
You dumb getting a haircut.
Yeah, even my grandmother was like, my grandma, oh, you should go work at a restaurant. She's like, maybe not. So everyone was kind of like persuading me away from it, because you had to be like these fighter pilot, Air Force, Chuck Yeager guys to get these jobs, and you couldn't wear glasses, and you had to be a certain height and weight. So there was a lot of restrictions back then, and it just like went in one ear,
like
out
Blue
the
Angels
other.
type shit.
Oh yeah, totally, dude. Going to air shows, and I was like, yeah, I'm not that guy. But like I said, it somehow worked out, and I think I'm part of the equal opportunity employers, where they kind of got to hire kind of the dumb guys to get in the back door and still work for them. So it eventually worked out, and I found a way. And I think a lot of it had to do with going out and being social and not being like a hermit and studying all the time. And every one of my jobs I've ever gotten has been because I think I've done a shot with somebody, bought somebody a beer, or went out and like partied with somebody. And this is before Facebook. And it was because I did that, and I knew somebody. They were like, you were cool, man. Like, I'll hand your resume in.
Dude, networking is so important. It doesn't matter what occupation it is. Like what you just said there is a prime example about how anything works. Some of the best gigs I've gotten and some of the coolest shit I've done is just because I was there, I was hanging, buying drinks or not, you're just not a dick, you're hanging out, and holy shit, you get this opportunity.
Totally, yep, and that's definitely how it works. And like I said, it was
that's got to be any industry.
Oh, absolutely. And just kind of rubbing elbows with the right people, and just you being Pat and me being me, sort of thing. It's just like people get to see the real you, and I think that goes a long way.
It really does. And yeah, it's just crazy by like not being a dick, showing up on time, and being funny can escalate somebody's career.
Oh, absolutely.
Monumentally.
Absolutely. It's absolutely huge. And now you try to pay it forward for the people that are wanting to kind of get into the same, venues in the same industry that you are, to kind of
Yeah.
like pay it forward, which is a huge thing for me as well. So, yeah, anyone who's bought me a beer, feel free to hit me up.
All right, there we go on the record. All right, so I fly all the time and I fly more and more each year, and I love it. I love airports. I love being on the plane. I don't always get Wi Fi. I love to disconnect and read a book or work, open my notebook and hand write some stuff or look at my set list for the weekend. But
How many days a year do you probably fly? Like, do you go by like days a year, like miles, or what? You're like
no,
a double.
Daisy, how I do it, I don't. In the past month, I flew to San Francisco, then home, then Washington, then home, then Oklahoma. So I had 3 flights in the past 3 of the last 4 weekends.
Yeah.
Um, I am amazed at how planes fly, and I have no idea how that happens. I'm asking you a second grade question, like I said in your intro. Please explain to me, like a second grader, how do planes fly?
I mean, it's a good question, man. It's a lot. It's a lot of PFM going on, pure
But
fucking magic
I'm
going on.
38 years old. You need to talk to me like I'm 7.
You can literally, I think if you took a brick and you put enough thrust on it, you could make a brick fly. But like the best way that it was explained to me, because I have to be taught like a 5-year-old, is back in the day when your parents had like no air conditioning in their car and you had to like crank the window down, like, and you're trying to keep yourself busy because there was no iPads, you put your arm out the window. And when you put your arm out the window, you did the weird thing with your hand where you did like this with your hand and your hand will
Yes.
go up and then it'll go down. That's lift. So all you have to do is put your hand out the window and just change your hand just a little bit. The car's producing the quote unquote thrust and the airflow of your hand. And when you put your hand on the window, you go like that, and it goes down and it goes up and it goes down. And then that's how planes fly. So instead of a car, there's engines under the wings that are producing the thrust. And then you go up and you go down. So the wings themselves aren't actually moving, but there is an elevator on the back of the aircraft, the tail, that's producing the up down motion. So you have the ability to do that. So, and it's the same thing when we land, taking off and landing. It's the same principle. So your hand, stick it out the window and you're going to be like, all right, I see what he's talking about.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Like
A
I
lot of
stare. I prefer the window seat, and I get
right.
it most of the
You're a
time.
window
And
guy,
I just
really? I feel
yeah.
trapped in the window.
Well,
I'm an aisle guy, man. I got to sit in the. I got to have that bathroom when I.
okay, we will get to that because I have stories. But I stare out the window like a child, and I'm like, "Wow,
Yeah.
what is
Yes.
happening? How is
Yep.
this happening?"
Yeah, especially like when you come in and you see the wings doing stuff and there's parts that are lifting, you can see like underneath the wing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. It's crazy. People get so bent out of shape when there's like a delay or we say like, hey, we have a maintenance issue because it's broke, and I think people are under the impression I'm driving like a 91 Civic and it's super easy to fix, but you have to like wrap your head around how many pieces and moving aspects and computers there are on board, and like anything can go wrong. And I'm like, I really want to be safe and take these people up. Maybe we should fix the problem instead of just like chancing it with some vague broken part. So, yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff.
I can't even comprehend how many moving parts there
Yeah.
are to an airplane.
Well, and even not being on the aircraft, just if, I remember as a kid when I first got my driver's license, going to airports and just sitting on the hood of my car, watching planes take off and just seeing what they were doing. And so looking from the outside in, what planes are doing, even if you're looking up in the sky and you're seeing.
I do that every day, all day. I am constantly staring at planes in the sky in bewilderment. It happened last night and this morning.
I'm glad it's not just me. I thought it was like a super nerdy pilot thing to do, but I'm glad other people out there that have an interest in aviation of some sorts do that. Absolutely.
Did you fly before 9/11 at all?
So I did. So I remember I was at the University of North Dakota, and I remember vividly I was in flight training, and everyone remembers where they were. And I remember my mom woke me up, and she's like, "Turn the TV on." I figured out what happened, and I remember them postponing all of our flights for the remainder of the semester. And I remember up in Minot, North Dakota, there's a big B-52 base. And a big, I remember planes like
that makes sense up
Steelers.
that way too.
Right. So all these aircraft, nobody was flying. So the only aircraft that were flying were military aircraft. And so you see all like these aircraft heading out east, and you're like, oh my God, what's going on? People are lining up for gas. I mean, you didn't know if it was the apocalypse or like what was going on. So I started flying. I was only in it for about a year. I started college in 2000. I was 17 at the time, so I was young and naive, but I was like, sweet, I'm in college. So I flew for a year. 9/11 happened. It shut everything down for quite some time. And then we were like, is this okay that like we're flying? You were kind of like, you're looking around, you had eyes in the back of your head. You're like, well, I don't want anything bad to happen. So it was very uneasy. I mean, the whole world was kind of at an uneasy state, but yeah, I mean, I kept it going and then graduated and then kind of found my way out of North Dakota. And I didn't really look back when I left.
Found my way out of North Dakota. That was the first time anybody's ever said that on this podcast. And
Man,
I've had Chad Daniels on, who's from Fergus Falls, Minnesota.
Okay, well that's Minnesota. It's a little different, but I mean, I'm sure people say about the same shit. I know like Nick Swartz, and he's from Minnesota, and he kind of gives it a little bit of a bad rap sometimes, but it's Minnesota, man. They're both good places. You just got to find your own things to do up there besides drink, I guess.
That sounds like a very Minnesota thing to do.
Yeah,
dude. So like, so I fly a lot, and pretty much, I don't know why this has become my thing, just for me personally, but like the first 5 to 7 minutes I'm on stage, all I talk about are my flights. Because I normally fly in, I'm like, hey, something happened today. And I'm pretty good about making a joke out of something that happened that exact day. Because crazy shit happens when you travel. I don't think a single day, or not a single day, a single airport experience goes by where I don't see something or somebody and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I can talk about it that night.
It's literally bananas. So if you take that into consideration and imagine working at an airport, there are things that happen inside airports where it's like 5 a.m. and people are like, they're doing Jaeger shots and they're drinking and you go, yep, same shit as usual. And you don't even like bat an eye at it. Like if that was happening out in public.
A couple years ago, that was me.
Dude, it is crazy. The craziest stuff happens in airports, and most people don't even blink an eye now because it's you have somebody filming on their
phone
their
and
phones, and you see all this stuff. And if you're lucky enough to fly Spirit Airlines or something, it's like, all right, someone's definitely going to get in a fight. I was just in Vegas, and they were charging people for their bags, and it was like $100, and the ticket was like $12.
Exactly,
so
I had that with Frontier.
Oh God! And people were losing their minds.
I lost it. I tweeted at them and lost.
Yeah,
they owned me back in the comments, and I was like, okay, this is fair.
Yeah, dude, it's tough. So it's the crazy. You just got to be used to it's like going into the octagon and you're going to get in a fight. It's just, all right, man, I'm going to get on Spirit Airlines. But yeah, airports are crazy. So if you can go into an airport just knowing you're going to see that, I think it kind of puts you at ease. I feel bad for all these people that want to take their family to Disney and they're spending like $20,000 on flights and food and tickets. And that's how they start their vacation.
Watching a fist fight in front of the Chick-fil-A in front of Terminal D.
It's absolutely horrible. So yeah, just flying in general can be a really positive experience. And then also can be like people's worst nightmares. So yeah. It goes.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And sometimes, even if I fly across the country, I won't get Wi-Fi because I want to disconnect for 5 hours, and it's so nice.
It's so nice.
I can't force myself to disconnect at home. So if okay, I'm flying to Seattle, I'm gonna read my book and write in my notebook for 5 hours, and I'm like, holy shit, what a game changer! I should do that at home.
And 99% of the people, other than the flight attendants that are trying to give you a drink or something, are going to leave you alone. So it's probably one of the few times that you can literally turn your cell phone off, be left alone, take a nap, read a book. I mean, you can get, have cocktails the entire way. But
absolutely. You're just stuck in your seat. The only thing you have to do is sit down. Just sit down.
Sit down, and most people just leave you alone. Yeah, it's great, man. I love it.
Dude, that is the dream.
Yeah, it's great. So,
have you ever had to land a plane for a medical emergency?
Yeah. I mean, I've had the medical emergency one that really sticks out the most is I had a lady who literally got out of her seat and laid down in the aisle, and she was about to give birth. And I was like, oh,
what?
God. I was like, it was crazy. This, really polite, quiet, meek Asian lady. And she looked like she had a Volkswagen strapped to her abdomen. And I remember she got down on the aisle, and we had to make an emergency landing.
Did she make it known beforehand, or did she just do this on her own?
I mean, like you know when somebody's pregnant. She wasn't like, "Hey, let's
Brian
take
Regan
off."
joke. Brian
Yeah,
Regan
right?
joke. You asked that question. Never, 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 never.
God, dude. She's like, "Hey, I'm crowning, but let's go take off." She wasn't really like adamant about it, but
I'm crowning.
she
Let's go take off.
she started having contractions, and this is what got me. So we make an emergency landing. We go to the gate.
Where were you
EMTs
flying
are
to?
there.
Can you give me the cities?
So we were coming in. We were actually coming into Philadelphia. I was based in Philadelphia with my previous airline for like almost 10 years. So I have a lot of Philly stories. And we were coming into land into
Oh
Philly.
boy.
And we got to the gate. EMTs are there. Fire trucks are there. Medics, police, whoever. Everyone was there. And this lady got up and she walked off the plane. And she goes, "Oh, it was just contractions. I'm fine." And I'm like, so you have to wrap your head around how much went into getting everybody there. And I'm like,
The rerouting.
dude, it was like, and all the paperwork that has to be like filled out. And I'm like, you're sitting in the wheelchair. They're taking you out of here. You're going to go get checked out. I'm like, I'm not going to let you walk off the plane and just like roam around the airport. Like I wanted to make sure like safety wise, she was okay. So that was one of the very many, medical emergencies that I've had.
Did
So
she birth in the airport, or was it?
She did not, but I made her go, on the stretcher, and they took her, and the ambulance. I think they might have taken her to the hospital. I'm sure the kid is, doing just fine, and he's probably at MIT right now, killing it. But I felt responsibility to make sure like this lady was going to be taken care of, and not just let her go walk around the airport. So yeah, it was crazy,
dude. That shit is wild to me. Like, does she get fined for that?
No, because it's
a medical emergency.
Right. So what are you going to do? I mean, honestly, all it did was, hey, listen, we have a medical emergency. They make everyone get out of our way in the sky. We get to come in. And if you've ever taken off or landed in Philly and you're like number 70,
the most,
and you just sitting there like you're circling around. So we got priority. We landed right away and we got right to the gate, and there's like lights galore at the gate, and we made everybody sit down, and EMTs came on and they picked her up and took her off. And so it was kind of like this, Air Force One presidential,
treatment
that we were getting. And then she was like, "I'm fine." And I'm like, you gotta go, lady. Like, I'm not letting you walk off the plane. So, there was a lot going on, but everyone's professional. I think that, once you put your heads together, they make it happen, and we got her off safely.
Are you allowed to, I don't know if it's a legal thing, but allowed to fly at 8 or 9 months pregnant? Don't they advise against it?
No. So honestly, we don't make the determining decision. I think it's your own like OB medical staff that is like, you probably shouldn't fly. They're the ones that you kind of got to listen to, because they can kind of figure out, and I don't think high altitude, really like kicks it into
leads to crowning.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, there's people that give birth early and give birth late. So it's kind of crazy, but, I don't think anybody knowingly goes on a plane and be like, I might die.
What?
So, yeah.
Dude, so as a passenger, so this happened to me last month, maybe even about 3 weeks ago. I was so mad at this woman on my plane. I had the window seat. There was nobody in the middle seat, and this woman was in the aisle seat. And we get to cruising altitude, and she puts on a sleep mask. She puts in earplugs and then covered herself under a blanket. Fuck you. I had to pee. You can't. Okay. She has, and I'm blaming her, she has a responsibility to tell me what to do here.
So there is an unspoken...
Hey, if you have to use the restroom, just nudge me. None of that. Like, no. I'm going to punch her in the beef. That's what I'm doing.
Are you going to do like the kind of like Magic Mike thing where like you got to get up and like you straddle her and like your like massive schwanz is right in her face, and like the moment the moment she wakes up and she's like, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "Oh."
She did that. I had to pee, but I was fine. About 40 minutes later, she woke up and came to, but I wanted to be like, you know how fucked up that is, right?
Totally.
That's I don't care that you do that. Just say, hey, if you have to pee, don't hesitate to tap me on the shoulder. That's it.
There's 3 unspoken rules. If you're sitting in the aisle, you are the captain of that row. So you have to make sure that everyone else is being taken care of. So if anybody has to pee, get up. If they spill something, like that is your row.
I love that. Captain of that row. I love
You're responsible. If you're in the middle seat, you automatically get both armrests. Unspoken rule. Don't even try to like slip your shit on middle row because that's what you get. But you
Oh,
also have
I
the
don't know about that
responsibility to.
one.
Oh, come on, man. That's the only thing that they get.
No, it's fair. It's fair. You're not wrong. I just never heard that before. But like I said, I'm in the window seat a lot, and I'm like, move your fucking elbow.
But the person in the window, a lot of people don't know this. You are responsible. There's always one on the flight. If you're the person and it's like a 5 a.m. flight and everyone else has their window shades open and you want
Yes,
to be that guy to look out the window the entire flight and the whole plane is lit up with light
lit
because
up
you're that
because of
guy,
your one window.
you're one window. And everyone's like, I wish that fucking guy would shut his blinds so we could all sleep. And there's like 200 people on the plane. So everyone has like an unspoken responsibility.
Okay, I've never heard that before, but everything you said sounds totally correct. And it's
You
so
like
funny
the,
because
the
I
light
do
police.
fly early and I have taken many red eyes,
Yep.
and it's like, shut your window.
Yeah. Red eyes are the best, by the way.
Really?
No, they're Are you kidding me? They're the
I didn't know if you were being sarcastic or not.
Oh God, they're the worst. There's nothing unless you're sitting in first class or you
Well,
can get like
or
a lay
unless
flat.
you're going to Europe and then you wake up in the morning.
Well, and the tough thing with that
But
is like
I'm
a lot
pretty
of
much
people,
okay. I've been to Europe twice, but I'm domestic all the time.
you got to get a good seat though if you're going to pull that shit. Because by the time you get there, you're either a zombie because you're awake for 10 hours, or you actually got rest and now you're acclimated. Get a
Yeah,
good seat. I'm just saying for all the listeners and viewers, spend the extra $400 and get the good seat.
how scary is turbulence? How scared do you get by turbulence? Because I have been on flights where bumps are fine, but
Yeah,
I think I actually texted you this day. It was back in December of last year. I had a
yeah.
layover at O'Hare, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm really not being a puss. The turbulence was so bad, I was legitimately scared, like scared, and
There's been
I
a
did
couple
not
times.
like that. So
Well,
is turbulence okay? Like, are bumps fine?
yeah. So I mean, turbulence in itself is fine during the daytime,
And it's
especially when there's
normal.
like it is. It's totally normal, and everyone feels it. Obviously, if you're sitting on the nose of the aircraft, which is the cockpit, or if you're sitting towards the back of the aircraft, it's like a teeter totter, and so you're going to feel the plane do this and rock up and back and forth. So you're going to get moved around the most. If you're sitting in the middle of the aircraft over the wing, where the middle of the teeter totter is, you're going to move a little bit. But when there's massive drops in elevation gains, everyone's going to feel that. So it's kind of one of those things where we're not dying to fly in turbulence, but it's kind of like that. It's that Sandra Bullock movie where they got to sit there with their eyes closed all the time. They can't see the creatures, but they know they're out there.
Speed?
God, what is that?
No, I'm kidding.
No,
It's not
no,
speed.
no, that
Not
was a
speed.
close
I'm
one.
kidding.
The close one,
Miss,
Keanu Reeves.
Miss
It,
Congeniality.
yeah, we're getting closer. We're getting closer. But it's like that. We can't see it. But now with like technology, we have the ability on our iPads to see where people have reported turbulence, and now they put that data on our iPads, so we can see where the turbulence is. But even in the middle of the night, you're over the Atlantic and you get rocked by some turbulence. I mean, it happens. So we're not actively looking to fly in it because we hate it. I cannot sit there and drink my Starbucks, especially without my lid when
Oh
there's
God.
turbulence. Without my, it gets on my USA Today, it gets on my paper. So I want a smooth flight, man. Absolutely.
At what point does turbulence scare you?
Honestly, when the masks fall, if the turbulence gets so bad and it jostles the aircraft, the oxygen masks
Well,
fall.
automatically, yeah. I've
It's
never
either,
seen that, but I have friends that have seen that.
yeah, I mean, like you've seen like some crazy like TikToks and stuff where people and like panels are falling from, the ceilings and the overhead bins are opening up. That's some pretty severe turbulence. And there's always like six people in critical condition. And the thing that the six people have in common is none of them are wearing their seatbelts. And I'm like, would you not wear your seatbelt if you're driving on the highway? I'm like, you're in the air going like 500 miles per hour. I'm like, put your seatbelt on.
Dude, I am not like a goody two shoes by any means, but my seatbelt is on the entire time because I'm 7 miles above the ground going
Dude,
500 miles an hour. I'm going to put this little belt on me.
you would be amazed the people that don't get neck injuries from like hitting the top of the airplane when it drops because it does happen. And the first thing they always ask them is, did you have your seatbelt on? They go, oh, well, I just scratched my ass. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. You didn't have your seatbelt on.
Well,
So
Oh, good.
It's annoying. It's annoying.
Oh, of course it is. So when there is bad turbulence like that, let's say the oxygen masks drop, what's going on in the cockpit? Are you keeping your composure? Or are you
Oh
guys
yeah.
like totally used to this and you're like, they're freaking the fuck out back there?
Well, it's kind of crazy because like when you had texted me and you were like turbulence, and I was like, well, how bad is it? Because we have different levels of turbulence, and
See,
for
I
us,
don't
like
know those levels, so please explain them because dude, I fly all the time. I've been through many bumps. When we were coming into
right,
Chicago, and I know Chicago's the windy city, I get
right.
it. I was like, I was not feeling it.
Denver's probably the worst, but there's people that
Surrounded
come
by
in
the
and
mountains.
it's bananas. And so like with us, I've been flying professionally for about 17 years now, and you kind of get numb. Like remember the first time you went out on stage and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm doing this. This is crazy. And now you're like, cool, like this is normal, the normalcy of it. So
It's a
for us,
job. I got to show up. I got something to
yep,
do. We're all going to
yep.
go home soon.
Absolutely. So for us, we know that we're kind of numb to it, but we know we have first time flyers back there. So we do everything we possibly can to either climb or descend or slow down to, make the turbulence less rough for you guys. We have light, moderate, severe, there's chop. So there's different types of turbulence out there. But what I might think is, a very light turbulence, somebody might say, oh my God, that was severe and that was the worst ride in the world. So it gets a little dicey, but it might last for a little bit. But actively, no, we're not just sitting there like, what the hell are all these bumps? Should we do something? So, I know a lot of people think the autopilot does everything, but that's when kind of the pilot instinct comes into play, and we start working to get out of those situations.
What does the autopilot do? Because one time I was on a plane and I had a joke about this that I was probably doing at the time when you first saw me. I was on a plane and one of the pilots came out of the cockpit and was talking to people, and I'm like, get the fuck back in there, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and that's the worst part is like when you got to take a shit and you're like, okay, like you get out of the cockpit and
Oh, do you sky shit?
Oh, dude, listen, I used to be against it, but like now sometimes when the flights are like 6, 7, 8, 9, I mean, some of the flights can go over 12 hours. You're like, you're going to shit. You got to shit.
Fair. I get it. I'm not
So you
mad at you.
You got to, I appreciate that. You got to come to terms with like, okay, this is a normal thing. Even though when you do it, you're like, all right, everyone's got a stopwatch. They're looking at me. They're going to time me. So you go into the bathroom and you got to like power shit. And it sucks because it's like, I want my 5 or 10 minutes. I want to make some money while I'm pooping. And you're rushed to do it. And everyone's like, no one's flying the plane. There's always 2 people up in the cockpit. So there's always a pilot, and if I have to leave, there's a flight attendant up there. So,
I know that's an aviation rule, right?
Yep, that's an aviation rule that is definitely for the U.S. I know other countries have their own rules, so I won't speak for them. But there's always 2 people up there, so there's really nothing to worry about. But you got to take into consideration, like, I want to stretch my legs, I want to stand up, I want to use the bathroom, I want to get a bite to eat. Like, we're human, so
absolutely, you have to get up. You have to get up and move around.
Human factor comes into play. So, no, definitely the autopilot. Getting back to your question, it's like, they make cars now with like cruise control, and it keeps your speed and it keeps you like in the lane. That's all autopilot is. It's not going around thunderstorms. It's not, trying to figure out where I should be, aiming the aircraft so I don't run into, some erroneous turbulence. It's just one of those things what keeps us going in a straight line. It follows the route that we give it between point A to point B. So as much as a lot of people are like, you guys don't do anything, there's a lot of pilot factor that goes into it.
That's still so crazy to me.
It's pretty cool. I mean, the aircraft are getting a lot smarter. So, and even some of the aircraft that we have, they can auto land. When I say auto land, it's literally like we take off and I can put the autopilot on at 500 feet leaving New York, and I can program the aircraft and I can have it land in JFK and like keep my hands up like this and literally not do anything. And at about 70 or 80 knots, I take over and I taxi and I turn the plane off the runway, and that's it.
Dude.
But it's got to be pretty extreme conditions where you cannot see the runway like in front of your face.
Yeah. Do you still have do you still love seeing things from above, like flying into a city? I fly in and out of Philly all the time. I still have 100,000 photos in my phone of leaving the airport and coming in, and I'm like, I'm going to do this again next week. But I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. But I'm going to be here again in 5 more days.
Apple must make a lot of money off me because I just keep upping my cloud storage because I have to have like 3,000 sunsets. I have so many
You
just,
dude, and that's the thing. We'll
I know.
we'll plug all your social media at the end, but like I love the stuff that you post from the cockpit. I don't know what pictures you are posting sometimes because they're like
Yeah.
radars and shit,
Yeah.
but
No,
I
it's
love
cool.
it.
There's a lot of stuff that we get to see, and I feel bad because the people don't get to see in the back because we have like a 270-degree view in the cockpit. So when we're coming in and we're coming over New York, there's been times when we're flying down the Hudson River, which is amazing and eerie at the same time to be a plane flying over where the Twin Towers used to be. And
Yes,
you can look down and you can look right down into Times Square, and you're like, no one else gets this view right now.
it's
This is better,
incredible, man.
dude. This is better than any like rooftop view you can get in New York City.
I just want to fly over like my parents' house and where I bartend. Like I think it will be
Dude,
so cool to see that from above.
you listen for like $75. I think you can go do like a discovery flight. It's one of these things where it's like I want to fly, but I don't know if I'm going to puke the entire time. And these airports have these deals where for $75 they'll take you up, and you can literally say, "I live at this location," and they'll fly you over it, and you can go check out all your cool stuff. It's if anyone's ever wanted to fly but have been like, I don't know where to start, that's where you start is on a discovery flight.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Do you fly in your off time just for fun?
I don't. It's, I have a lot of guys that I fly with and they have their own planes. I just, it's nice to do it. And that's one of the things of being in the industry. It's like we get to fly for free. So, like when I take my wife to London and we get to go over there and, go to her favorite restaurant and it costs us like $70 in taxes to fly to London. Like I can't do that in my own aircraft, So for me, I'm kind of keeping my job and my fun time, my profession. I've got a lot of other hobbies and stuff that I like to do. So maybe someday down the road, but planes are not the cheapest thing in the world. So it's kind of like one
Yeah.
of those things where you need to really have quite a bit of money set aside. But yeah,
Well,
it's fun to do.
that's kind of the thing too. It's also your occupation. Like I love stand up more than anything, but also like I just came off a very busy 5 weeks and I have a show tonight, but
Yeah.
also there's nothing I love more than like putting it aside for a minute.
Well, and that's the thing is if you're out in public or out doing some other job, people always expect you to perform. And if like you're having a bad day and
You are speak, dude.
oh,
I can't sleep at night because of this exact kind of situation.
and you're like the funny guy and people laugh and you're having a bad day and they go, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't want to tell jokes and tell bad dad jokes and
Dude,
perform. Like I just want to have a day.
Want to finish my sandwich, watch the show I'm finishing, and go to bed.
It's so tough, dude. But it's like it shows more with the funny people when they're having a bad day, just from somebody that like might be an introvert that's never funny.
There's nothing worse than catching a comic during the day because like we do our shows at night, we do a meet and greet or hang out after, and sometimes hang for a couple drinks with whatever fans are lingering. But like when I'm at Starbucks during the day, dude, I'm either working on the act a little bit or I'm like doing something else. Like man, when you're off the clock. As a comic, as a pilot, you're just off the clock.
Right. And that's one of the things that we get to do. When we're done and we walk out of that cockpit, I can literally turn my phone off and like just check out and no one's calling me, no one's wondering what I'm doing. And it's just like, cool, I know when I have to fly next, and that's it. Whereas, if you're a real estate agent or if you have some profession where you're living by your phone, it is constant. I'm like, I would lose my mind if that was me. So yeah, there's different levels of that.
So people frequently ask me if I travel with the same group of comics, and which is a weird question to me because like I don't do improv and it's not sketch. I am a stand-up, but I've toured with a lot of comics. So I'm like, yeah, actually I'm with Tom Segura this month. I'm with Dan Cummins this month, or Chris Porter or whoever. Do you travel with the same flight crew often, or are you always meeting new people when you
I get those questions too, and I don't want to use the word infuriating, but the one question I get a lot is, what is your route? And I'm like, what is my route? I'm thinking like,
it'd be like asking me the same thing. Like I don't have a route. I was in Oklahoma last week. I was in New York City last week. My next trip's to North Carolina. There's no route. I just go wherever I have to go.
I think with our profession, with pilots in general, there's so many stereotypes, and we have the same route. We all have, 3 ex-wives. We all have multiple houses with.
You have
Ferraris
one current one.
I have one current one. I have 4 Ferraris and I have 5 hot. No, I'm just kidding. But there's a lot of stereotypes that come with it. So with us, you have the ability to fly with the same crew. So if you and I are both pilots and you and I are like, man, I get along really well with Pat, I have the ability to buddy bid with you. So you pick a schedule and then I pick your schedule. And then we basically just take like a $40 million plane and we bar hop all over the world for 4 days. That's basically the gist of what we're doing. And it's awesome because it's not really work at that point.
How much do you guys party? I mean, I know that's different for everybody. I'm asking you that question, but let me ask you, okay, let me rephrase it. In general, how often does like the flight crew get off the plane, get to the Crown Plaza, and then just go to town?
Well, it's funny because
it probably depends on age too.
Yeah, right. It's either feast or famine because like some of the hotels that we go to, we might be delayed all day and our overnight just shrunk. And so we might only have 10 hours before we have to get back up and fly a plane. So that's not a lot of time to like go to bed, shit, shower, and shave. And if you've ever like done something late at night, you can't just turn your brain off. So then you're sitting there, watching, C-SPAN at 2:00 in the morning because it's the only English speaking thing, whatever country you're in. But then on the flip side, the airlines will put us up at like these all-inclusives in like Aruba. And you're sitting there and you're kind of like, well, when in Rome, and it's free food and free drinks and free slides and free pool. And you're just like, so they kind of really, they're not advocating. It's not like the real world where they're just like, you're stuck in a house and here's all the booze you want, but don't do anything crazy. So they're giving us the accommodations, but it's still our responsibility to be 100%.
Not a piece of shit.
Not a piece of shit in the morning. Yeah, man. So they definitely give us the accommodations and they're pretty nice to us overall at the hotels. But most guys just want to change and go out and find like a hole in the wall and get like some wings and some beer and just like depress.
100%. I've always said that like, in comedy, there's no after parties. I'm in comedy clubs. I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm in Albany.
Totally.
Nobody's going to party. But after the show, I don't even care if it's like an Applebee's or a TGI Fridays. I want to find a small, quiet place, have 2 beers, the appetizer sampler, and just go watch TV in my hotel room.
Yeah, man, and just get a good night's sleep. I mean,
it's so important anymore.
It's fun to party, but like you said, piggybacking off what you said previously, but now when you're at this age, you're like, okay, like, you used to drink like 30 Busch Lights, and now it's like, okay, I'm going to have my 2 IPAs, and before I start wanting to fight somebody, I'm going to go to bed. So yeah, I'm definitely with you on that one. So getting a good night's sleep, but also having a good time, it's a crazy balance. And some of our days can go 16 hours. I mean, we're in the uniform for 16 hours in one day. So, maybe by the end of that day, you're like, dude, I'm done. I'm going to slam click my door and I'm going to bed. So
is that max for you guys? Like what's the legal
so there's
hour limit?
There's different factors that go into it. And it really depends on a sliding scale of, did you start at 4:00 in the morning or did you start at noon? How many flights are you doing that day? There's kind of a chart that we use to say, well, if you're going to do, 3 flights and you started at 4:00 in the morning, you're only good for maybe 12 hours. But, if you're doing 1 flight and it started in the afternoon, you might be good for 16 hours. So it's kind of, it's variable. So we know like when we kind of turn into pumpkins.
How many flights, what's the max you've done in one day?
Oh God. I've probably done 6 flights in one day.
Wow. I'm assuming they're all relatively regional, or were you?
Yeah. That was my Philadelphia regional days, man.
Because you were based in Appleton, because you and your wife have always texted me when I've been in Appleton.
Yep. So I worked for a small company called Air Wisconsin, and it was funny because at the time when I worked for them, we didn't even fly to Wisconsin. I was based in Philadelphia, and people were like, "Why is the company called Air Wisconsin, and you guys fly to Philadelphia?" And we were flying for the old U.S. Airways at the time. The old main hub was Philadelphia for them. So we would fly.
Philadelphia was the main hub for Air Wisconsin.
Philadelphia was the main hub for Air Wisconsin because we flew for U.S. Airways. It was nuts. So,
that's hilarious.
Someone's going to come kill you right now.
Yeah, there was an unfamiliar truck just came by, so I was like, "What is that?"
So they were much shorter flights, but yeah, man, it was a lot. And even 6 flights, you're like, "Oh my God, get me out of this thing." So you kind of got burnt out.
You know what's so funny to me is that travel in general is exhausting. Like I am a passenger. I am sitting in my seat from San Fran to Philly. It's 5 hours, 15 minutes. I get home, I'm drained.
it's a mental thing though. It's not like you were out digging ditches all day. It is like your brain is mush
It
by
really
the
is.
end of it. And it's the waking up, it's traveling to the airport, it's the TSA line that might be like 5 miles long. And it's absolutely crazy. Over $19 salads, and you're like, yeah, this seems reasonable. Like, what else am I going to do? And then you're on this
Pre-check,
flight
baby.
for, oh, dude, it's crazy. So yeah, it's mentally, it's a very draining job, but physically, like you're sitting in a big lazy boy, you're looking out the window, you're drinking your coffee. If it's a good day, everything's on time, and you're like, man, this is a really good job.
That's it. Yeah. Is it exhausting for you though? The way it is for a passenger? Does that make sense?
No, I think passengers have it the absolute worst. The fact that they charge you guys people money. I mean, I know it's a business, but the fact that they charge people money to do this, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting paid a lot of money to do this. I would not be doing this to pay somebody money. This is crazy. So for us, we have easy parking spots. We kind of go, right through TSA with our checks. We get on the airplane. There's food for us. There's coffee. We kind of run the show. So for us, like once the
Open
cockpit doors
bar.
close, open bars. Once the cockpit door is closed, we kind of forget you guys are back there. We have so much going on up front.
That makes total sense.
We just we do our thing.
This is going to sound crazy, but I forget the crowd is there because, no pun intended, I'm on autopilot and I'm doing my thing.
Yeah, which is,
I mean, obviously
nice.
I want the laughter, but it's like, it's not robotic. I want to be in the moment, and like I'm like hyper aware of what's happening, but I totally get that because I'm on stage, I'm saying this. Hopefully they laugh here. When they do that, I do this. And it's dude, it's kind of actually, there's some parallels.
I think between you and I think when there's quote unquote technical difficulties, I think that's when it makes both of our jobs harder. When I have the delays or something's broken, people get pissed off, and you're like, yeah, there's a hurricane in Florida, and then I get some dick that comes up and he's like, I've got my cell phone, and my brother once played Flight Simulator, and he told me that it's sunny out where he is, and I'm like, dude, why are you like micromanaging and trying to tell me how to do my job? And I'm like, you know what? Fine, we'll take off, but just you on board. How about that? And he's like, well, I'm good. So it's crazy, dude, when people try to tell you how to do your job.
Oh, dude, we could spend another 4 hours talking about that alone. You know what you should do? That thing was really funny, but I didn't like that one line. But my cousin works in HR. If you spent 5 minutes with her, it's like jump off a bridge.
Dude, it is. You just sit there, and we get people. It's funny when people leave and they're getting off the aircraft. We get people that poke their head up in the cockpit and they make like snide remarks sometimes. And I'm like, what is with these?
Hold on. People poke their head in the cockpit. Isn't that lock like 9/11able?
Once we're on the ground and people are deplaning the aircraft.
Oh, okay.
The cockpit doors open.
Yes,
and
correct.
If everything's not filled with blowjobs and jelly beans, people get pissed off and they poke their heads up in the cockpit and they're like, I had one guy chew me out because we were a half hour early. I think I might have told you this, and we were in Philadelphia. We hauled ass, like we thought we were going to be delayed. We got in a half hour early, and this guy came up to me and he goes, now what am I supposed to do? And I go, what? I was like, I don't understand the question. I'm like, you leave. I'm like, you leave the airport. And he goes, well, my daughter's picking me up. And I'm like, that's cool. And he goes, well, now that we're early, I have to sit on the airport and wait for her. He goes, you probably live here. He goes, you're probably going to go home, aren't you? I go, I don't live here. He goes, what am I supposed to do? And I was like, honestly, I would probably go have a beer. I'm like, there's bars everywhere.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm sorry for getting you here safe 30 minutes early.
Alive.
Like, you can do no right. I was like, this is so frustrating.
That's the stupidest one I've ever heard. So we're going to wind down here in a second, but I always ask my comics, because it's mostly comics on this podcast, about a horror story. So do you have something in your back pocket of a horror day at work for a pilot?
I had something that was like, that lives rent.
9/11. Is that a joke amongst pilots? Be honest.
I hear some stand-up guys talk about it, but for pilots, like, we're more scared that like there could be another one, or like a cyber attack. But no, we don't necessarily joke about it at all.
And that makes complete sense. And honestly, I will edit that out of the podcast if that's a weird question or something you don't want on record. But I didn't know if that was like just something, because you have to laugh at your job, and no matter how dark and messed up it is. But I didn't know if like the occasional this sounds like such a dick thing to say. The occasional 9/11 joke just made it, in the cockpit
Yeah.
because that's what you have to do to laugh about your job. Like, I'm not even saying that to make fun of it. I'm saying it because you have to make fun of your own occupation to get through the ridiculous shit. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think we probably poke fun more at the operations of like what's happening, because you'll sit there and like something will happen and like you're about to push back from the gate and like you're like, oh, nobody fueled the aircraft. And you're like, this is not new. We've been flying for 100 years. Aviation's been around. And I'm like, whose job was it to fuel the airplane? And you're like, yep, same shit as usual. And like, you're kind of sitting there having to do someone else's job. And you're like, this is not my job. But the problem is the guy who's making $8 an hour to refuel the aircraft is going to work just hard enough not to get fired. And you're like, well, okay, that's why I haven't been fueled yet. So it's more operational things, and then we laugh about our families and life at home, and we find common denominators.
Again, comparisons, man. It's like it's someone else's job. It's like, hey, you are to the comedy club, and they're like, hey, it's free Long Island night. You're like, what? That should not be happening here.
Free, yeah. You can have a double if you want. No, but the one thing, I'll make it quick, that sticks out, that lives rent free in my head, that is probably the most scarring is
please. This is we're going to end the podcast on this, and I love a horror story from anybody's occupation. So please lay it on me.
I was trying to catch a flight home, and I was flying home from Philly down to Orlando, and I missed the flight. And I'm like, oh, I can't believe I missed the flight. I like ran, and they had just pushed back from the gate. And as I was about to leave, the plane comes back. And I'm like, what the hell? And so the plane did a gate return. It comes back to the gate and whatever. And this lady and like the police showed up, and I was like, what's going on? I was like, whatever. And so the gate agents go, listen, there's one seat that opened up just now. If you want it, it's yours. They're going to take off. They're going to blast off. You get to go home. So it was like the last flight of the night. I'm like, great, whatever. Get on the aircraft. I say hi to the crew. I sit down. I'm in my uniform.
I was just going to ask.
Everyone kind of like knows. I didn't have time to change. And I sit down in the seat, and it's towards the back of the aircraft. And as soon as I sit down, I'm feeling like this super weird vibe. It's just like everyone's kind of looking at me, but they're looking around at everyone else. I come to find out once we're airborne, and I didn't have a choice. Once we were airborne, I went to go talk to one of the flight attendants, and she goes, hey, I'm glad you made it on. I go, what happened? Why was there a gate return? And she said, well, did you see the cops show up? I said, yeah. I said, they took this old lady off the plane. She goes, yeah, the lady who was sitting in your seat, we had to do a gate return, and the police showed up and took her off. And I'm like, $1 million question. Why did this 80-year-old lady get taken off the aircraft? She had brought a small dog. She had brought a Chihuahua with her. And while they were pushing back from the gate, going from the gate to the runway, she decided to undress herself on one side and start breastfeeding this Chihuahua.
Shut your mouth.
So your brain is spinning right now with a million questions like mine was. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, she's literally
Can you send me a video?
Dude, I was like, this is probably, you probably had like the Nokia 8530 back then. There were like no videos. But people were like, what are you doing? And literally, I think somebody asked her, what are you doing? And the lady's response was, till this day, was, my dog is a nervous flyer. It comforts my dog. How you found this out through trial and tribulation, I don't know. But it freaked out so many people that she refused to put her 80-year-old boob away. And they're like, if you don't do it, we're going to, and she refused to do it. And so they went back to the gate and they kicked her off. And so I was sitting in the boob seat for the entire flight.
Oh my God. Wow.
Bananas.
That is one. I mean, I've heard a lot of my friends tell me some horror comedy stories, but that was something totally different. What is the fine for that? What is the FAA like when a plane? Well, I guess the plane never took off because you guys just had a gate return. But like, if you take off and land a plane because of a drunk passenger or somebody unruly, like what?
Oh yeah.
What is the FAA? Does the FAA fine you, or is that more of a legal?
I think that the airline can fine you. There's a lot of agencies out there, but there are definitely fines associated with it, and I think it comes with not listening to flight attendants and just like pissing in the aisle because you're drunk, which has happened before. And once that happens, you get put on a no-fly list, and it's not only a no-fly list; It is a no bus list, a no cruise list, a no train list. So once you get
So you
banned
can't
from,
do any
there's no public travel, you get banned. So it's like,
wow.
I would rather pay the fine and be able to fly again or travel on a cruise ship than get banned. And you're blacklisted nowadays because during COVID, so many people lost their minds on planes that they're like, we have to make the punishment worse. And so they just took away all the rights.
I wasn't on a plane, but my buddy Matt was on a plane during COVID when you were first allowed to fly again, obviously.
Yeah.
And the flight attendant came up to a guy that was not wearing a mask and said, if you don't put your mask on, you will not just be banned from American, but you will be banned from flying in general forever.
Yeah. And people go, I'm still not going to do it because they think it's a joke. And then
why would you can't be that dumb to think that. You I understand people are, but man.
It's like throwing the red card in soccer. And once it's up, you can't take it back. And so these people push these flight attendants who, are not making great money. And they're like, I don't have to listen to you. I'm a double diamond member and I'm in first class. And it's like, you're special just like everybody else on this plane. And then they get banned.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to land because of a drunk or unruly passenger?
Oh yeah. I mean, we've had one passenger, actually we did a gate return. He was so drunk that he somehow got on the aircraft and everyone's like, this guy's going to cause a problem. And I'm thinking like, let's handle this while we're already on the ground before we take off and they want more drinks. So we did a gate return and they took him off. And the airport police are great. They love a good situation. And so they come on.
They are sitting around doing nothing for the most part, it seems like.
Dude, they just yoke them up and they're like, you're coming off the plane. And not a lot of people know this. Most every airport has a jail inside of the airport.
Oh.
They take these people off the airplanes and they detain them in their own jail. So when people are getting detained in Newark, they have their own police department at Newark Airport and their own jail cells.
I mean, there are Philadelphia police in that airport.
Yes, they're not just making them sit in like a chair on their hands like they got in trouble. So yeah, it's crazy.
Dude, you explained so much for me today, and I appreciate that.
Just the tip of the iceberg, man. There's definitely more to talk about, but yeah, I think we covered
know.
A lot of ground.
We could have a part 2, 3, and 4, I bet. But all right, man, plug your social media because not only do you post cool aviation stuff, you also post your woodworking stuff that you do. Yeah,
absolutely. It's just a little hobby that I got in mind to kind of something to keep me busy. And I think a lot of guys retire and they don't have things to do after they retire. I got quite a bit of time, but yeah, dude, I do a bunch of woodworking, wood resin guy, and I on Instagram. So if you want some awesome gifts or something cool,
yeah, absolutely.
But, try to keep myself busy, so I'm not sitting in the pool with a cocktail with my dogs all day. But no, man, it's a great profession. Hopefully, I'll see you on a flight, and I'm still trying to meet up with you in a city somehow. We gotta make that happen.
We have crisscross paths numerous times. It's crazy. Yes. It's even worse with my comedian friends because there's friends like very, very good friends that I haven't seen in years, but they were at the club the week before me or after, and it's like wild that my friend was standing in this spot last week that I'm standing in. It's ships in the night, man, or planes in the air.
We'll get an app that says "Find My Comedian Friends." You can link up with your favorite comedian somewhere in the town and have drinks with them. That'd be hilarious. We'll definitely meet up though, man. It won't be too soon.
Absolutely. All right, Jackson. Thank you for being here and explaining to me like a child how planes work.
Thanks for having me, brother. Appreciate it.
All right, you got it, man.